So enjoy this.
All right. Thank you. I'm Çiğdem Çelik from Istanbul. So good afternoon from the time of Istanbul and good morning in local time. And I want to welcome you all to the session 8, which is about the price and forecasting in power systems. First, I want to thank to the Italian Association for this impressive organization in these tough days. Also, I want to thank everybody who join and contribute to this session and to this event, distinguished events. We have 4 presenters. Now, I have read the CVs and very impressive CVs. So, also, we have very limited time for each presentation. We have 10 to 15 minutes. Then I will take 1 question for each presentation. I spoke with the presenters and they said that they will answer you if there are questions unanswered at the end of the session. Now we start with Kundre Théotin from the University of Montpellier in France. And I will kindly ask Kundre to introduce himself very shortly at the beginning of his presentation. Then we will continue with the second presenter, Daiva Dumči-Viena from Lithuania. The paper has 2 writers, but Professor Dumči-Viena will present. Also, then we have the third presenter from the United States, Vanshika Photedar. Again, it's a paper with 2 writers, but Vanshika will present the paper. And last but not least, Gilzia Bonaldo will present a paper with 3 writers. So the floor is Kundre, yours, please. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction. So my name is Théotine Kundre. I'm a French first-year PhD student from University of Montpellier. And I'm gonna introduce you a paper about forecasting power system flexibility requirements. So everything is set. Let's start. About the content of the presentation, we're gonna quickly review the context of this work, the research question we ask, and the contribution to literature we provide. So it's kindly more a methodological article. So we basically gonna spend more time on how to model what are the different constitutive parts of our methodology. Finally, we're gonna present numerous application of this methodology on French power, French region Occitanie electricity system. And then we're gonna conclude this presentation. So first, about the context. We are in a context of fast increasing VRE for variable and renewable energies capacities in all kind of power systems. And there's also great uncertainties about the future of electricity consumption, especially because of the arrival of new technologies like electric vehicles, for instance. Another important aspect of concept is that the new mechanisms are emerging to provide more flexibility to power systems. So by that I mean mechanisms like and technologies like electricity storage, power-to-X, intraday markets also. And another important fact is that the electricity production is more and more decentralized, meaning that the renewable energies output will be even more affected by local weather conditions. So the research question we ask in this paper is fundamentally we're gonna explore a deep learning method to forecast electricity system residual load. And the question is simply, can we use such method, so-called deep learning method, to forecast a power system flexibility requirements? The contribution is basically the methodology we provide. And also in this paper, we try to compare the results, the forecasting results of this method with traditional econometric framework, namely ARIMA. With this forecast, we're gonna then try to use them in future works to build realistic scenarios of flexibility requirements for a given power system. So the first element of methodology is basically how to model flexibility requirements. We use the residual load function, which is simply the consumption minus the wind power and the solar PV production. This approach is focusing on the fact that when all the electricity from renewable has been injected into the grid, how much is left to cover to satisfy the demand. That's the approach of measuring flexibility requirements, because once this output, this intermittent output is injected, we can use either controllable units, storage, demand response, many kinds of mechanisms to satisfy the rest of the demand. And this residual load, we're gonna use it in the form of time series, because we want to explore the many different temporal aspects of flexibility requirements. By that I mean that it's not the same if you have to balance the grid on a hour-to-hour basis, and that it's not the same as exploring the operational framework you have to provide for coping with the interseasonal variability, for instance. So the second aspect, once we get this residual load time series, we're gonna decompose them using a method called complete ensemble empirical mode decomposition with adaptive noise. So it's complex name for just basically to say we're gonna extract all the oscillatory patterns that are included in our original series to make the original time series easier to forecast. This extraction is useful because the IMF, the intrinsic mode function we extract, are all stationary. Finally, we're gonna train a neural network. So this is basically the typical structure of a neural network. So it's composed of neurons, which are data processing units. They are organized in layers and connected via weight vectors, which represent basically the parameters of the model. The special can of ANN is a recurrent neural network, which is designed specifically to deal with the time series and second shelf processes. Another aspect of methodology is that we're going to use RNN, a specific kind of RNN, which is called LSTM for long short-term memory. This kind of network has very good memory abilities, either to remember distant past information, but also close recent past information. So it's the basic, it's the very core of the network. And we can enhance these units by increasing the dimensionality of our data and presenting it to the network in a graphical view. This will increase actually the forecasting performance. So this is the whole methodological framework. We get a residual load time series. We divided into days of residual load, and then we feed it to the network. It does many different transformations, and we can, by this way, forecast day after day the residual load of a power system. We apply this framework on Occitanie power system data. So we use data between 2013 and 2018 to train the network, and the result we get is are presented in this slide. So it's basically the same order of magnitude in terms of error as the ARIMA framework for the first 24 hours predicted. But then the model doesn't have to be retrained again to provide how do you say, accurate, let's say accurate forecast of the residual, the exit-any residual load. So these are the numerical result. Basically, we have an error, mean absolute percentage error of the model for all the predicted days of residual load in 2019. This error is about 3%. So as a conclusion, we wanted in this paper to develop a methodological framework to forecast flexibility requirements of any given power system. We use deep learning method to do this. We can achieve a result which is in the same line as ARIMA method for the 24th first predicted hours. So it's 3.7 hour error in average. We have the same issue as ARIMA methodology of error propagation over the forecasted steps. So these here, the long-term forecasts are given just to assess the potential, the behavior, sorry, of the model over many different forecasting steps. But we can use new incoming data as they become available to predict the next day. So we have this workflow working on a day-to-day basis and being able to forecast kind of precisely. And another future work would be to assess the potential of this method on other type of sequential phenomena. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. So you are so timely. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, there is no open questions for the time being. Actually, I have one question, but I will keep it until the end of the presentation. So if we have time, I can ask. Yes, please. Did somebody say something? No. As far as, yes, I don't see any open questions. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
Andrea.
thank you.
So please, the next presenter, Professor Daiva Dumsi Uviena, please. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. I will try to share my slides. No.
You just need to share the screen. If you have some problem, just we are here to help. Huh? No problem, Daiva.
So now at the moment, can you see or not?
Okay. Thank you.
Now you can see.
Okay, do you have the slides of your presentation?
Yes, I do, but I try to share.
Okay, you just need to click on the right side, close to chat. You have like screen sharing.
Yes, I do that. Yes.
Wait, try now.
Okay. No?
Okay, now should work. Okay, perfect.
Now it's okay?
Yes,
Yes.
I see.
Okay,
Yes, I see.
Can you see?
thank you so
Yes,
much.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so hello everyone. I will present the paper titled Study of Factors that Influence the Price of Electricity. The authors of this article are two professors from Kaunas University of Technology, School of Economics and Business, Professor Gražina Starkienė and me, Daiva Dumčiuvienė. So the problem which we analyzed in our paper is related with electricity usage, and functioning of energy system, energy market, and the importance of these indicators to the economics and of course to the economic development, and analysis of factors which affect or have impact on electricity price is the subject of our research as well. And having some determine the factors influencing electricity price and the degree of the influence, institutions regulating countries' energy sector would be able to identify the means to stabilize the electricity price, or if not, even to decrease electricity price as well. And in relation with this problem, I would add the lack of this such kind of research, even especially maybe in Eastern European countries, as we present this part of the UN, and having in mind what the electricity markets are liberalized not very many time ago. Just we have this process in 1990s, and at the moment the operator of Nordic Baltic State Power Exchange is active in that area, and in the administration of the market as well. We within this framework we have many companies and in different countries. At the same time, the problem is related, of course, with the consumption of electricity in Lithuania. It is increasing, and the price as well changing time to time. So the main aim of the study is to analyze or identify and analyze factors which have the main impact on the electricity price, and of course at the same time to expand this research area in case of Lithuania. And having such a analysis, we made some, of course, literature review of different researchers in the area concerned, and it was interesting to find the different results of different researchers analyzing electricity markets, demand and price relations, and of course different markets having different structures, and some other researchers analyzed even Nordic and Baltic states, In terms of market power, we have companies some market power, and about the market concentration, and some of them even analyze renewable energy resources and relation with price of electricity. So quite a long list of literature which we had analyzed, and just in summary, I may say, but the research is very interesting and different, describing the different factors influencing the price of electricity, and it's interesting and important, of course, to understand that the situation in each country is different, and the factors may have influence on price and power market, the different impact on particular country. So going to the methodology which we use in our work, we choose of course, identifying the factors which are important for electricity price. And as a method, we choose the correlation and regression analysis, testing whether variables follow normal distribution, and correlation analysis is employed in our research to calculate the coefficient of Pearson linear correlation, and some data were used in some period, and 9 factors affecting the price. Correlation analysis was performed as well. And in order to quantitatively evaluate the impact of the factors of electricity price, regression analysis was carried out as well. And the multiply linear regression model is developed, and simple non-linear regression models are designed with each independent variable in order to determine which of the 9 chosen independent variables influences the quarterly average price of electricity in wholesale energy market in Lithuania. So at the beginning, to present the use of correlation analysis in our research, and the quarterly average price of electricity in wholesale market has moderate positive correlation with prices of biofuel and natural gas, and has weak negative correlation with the volume of electricity generated from the renewable energy resources. So in this table, the coefficient matrix line correlation between independent variables and dependent variable electricity price. We present here these independent variables and coefficient of linear correlation with dependent variable, and the p-value as well. Study of factors influencing the price of electricity in Lithuania using the regression analysis. So the assessment of such indicators are presented here in this table, taking price of imported natural gas, biofuel price, and generation from the renewable energy resources, and And the second one table presents the assessment of the indicators and multicollinearity and secondary multi-linear regression model. And it takes biofuel price and generation from renewable energy sources. And later to make the research, the following equation describes it is presented here and describes the multiply linear regression model, which presents later results, and the results of the non-linear regression model designed with each independent variable. So the results are presented here in terms of coefficient of determination as well, and probability, taking such independent variables as local production, net imports, and price of imported natural gas. And the second part of the same table takes biofuel price, generation from renewable energy sources, share of consumed energy acquired in the exchange, and number of independent suppliers operating in the market. So in our study, we assessed parameters significance of the developed non-linear regression model, and in this table, the independent variables and probability of student criteria P are presented here. So just maybe to add that the parameters of all developed non-linear models are significant as their probability of student criteria are less than 0.05. And that is why all the 5 models are suitable for explaining the value of electricity price. And we made some conclusions from our research. In short, maybe I will present the main conclusions. Of course, there are more, but the price of electricity in the market is, of course, constantly changing. And different studies presents or review up to the impact of factors of electricity price are different, and the rise and research outcome often depends on the electricity market or the country which is chosen for the analysis for the research. Electricity market in Lithuania is competitive. It is not totally liberalized, since public supply electricity rate is applied to household users. Domestic producers and suppliers participate in the single electricity market of Nordic and Baltic states. The research in the area concerned is mostly focused on such factors as market structure and competition in the market, energy consumption and demand resource management, electricity generation using renewable energy resources. And it could be added that it is considered that competition among producers and suppliers reduce the market price, whereas the competition among network operators increases it. And correlation analysis led to the findings what average price of imported gas, average biofuel price, and the volume of electricity generated from renewable energy sources have significant linear correlation with the quarterly average wholesale energy price. And non-linear regression analysis revealed that Lithuanians' average wholesale electricity price is influenced by the volume of domestically produced electricity. Net imports average biofuel price, average price of imported natural gas, and the volume of electricity generated from the renewable energy resources. And more conclusions are in relation with saying just what the non-linear regression modeling helped to determine the local electricity production and electricity generation from renewable energy sources diminishes electricity price in Lithuanians' wholesale market. And it can be stated that to reduce the wholesale price of electricity in Lithuania, it's recommended to promote the development of the electricity generation from renewable energy sources. Of course, introducing new competitive capacities of electricity production in the country, and could be recommended also to develop Lithuania's biofuel energy sector and to work towards reducing price of imported natural gas through attraction of nuclear partners. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much. Yes, I couldn't start my video. Okay, let me check the questions. For the time being, there is no question. Maybe at the end, after all of the presentations, we can discuss a few issues. So thank you very much again. And shall we listen to Vanshika Potedar, please? Could you?
Yeah, I can. I'm ready to go. Should I share screen?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, shared. Is it visible, my desktop?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Okay, so I apologize in advance because it's 3 a.m. here, and if I'm a little loopy, sorry about that.
It's okay.
Yeah, so let's dive right into it. Hi, my name is Vanshika Potedar, and I am a data economist. I work with Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, which is basically one of the national labs under US Department of Energy. And my main work is to do battery storage economics. So for this presentation, I'm going to present a small part of the battery storage economics that I do, which is a load and price forecasting approach. The forecasting approach that we use at PNNL is used to be fairly straightforward, and we used to use like industry standard approaches. But recently, me and my colleague Alistair Crawford, who's the other contributor to this presentation, along with Shuma, Patrick Balducci, and Divu, we were able to develop some really cool variable treatment methods that have improved our load forecasting and price forecasting by quite a lot. So today I'll be presenting that. And for that, I've actually picked a case study of Richland that we did to demonstrate what we ended up doing. So for load forecasting in this specific use case, we had Richland's utility that was providing energy in this city in Richland, Washington, United States. The name of the utility is Energy Northwest, and they're planning to deploy a battery system in Richland in order to reduce demand charges. So I don't know how the bill structure in other countries is, but in America, in some places, you'll have to pay extra demand charges during certain hours of the month when the demand is hitting the peak. So say for January, you're hitting the peak on 6th January, then you would want to reduce your demand on that day in order to reduce the amount of demand charges you would have to pay to your utility that is providing you with services. So the battery that they were thinking of putting at this place, they decided that every day they'll decide whether or not they want to reduce their load consumption next day using the battery. Uh, uh, Based on whether or not they thought that tomorrow was going to be the peak for the month. So if you know when the peak of the month is going to happen, then you can effectively deploy the battery at that time, and uh, and then reduce your demand charges. So you predict hourly load on a day ahead basis for the entire month. And in these situations, an assumption of perfect foresight typically presents an upper bound because you want uh, because you're assuming that you know everything, right? Like that's not really true. So we definitely need forecasting where for the battery operator every day forecasts what they think is going to happen for the rest of the month, and then they deploy battery based on that. So the biggest thing that we ended up doing in this was that we used time as a continuous variable. More about that in a bit. So let me dive deep into the forecasting approach that we were using. Temperature was the most significant predictor of load in this situation, and historical temperature forecasts were not available for us to test. So you'll see here that the temperature-based model, this is, sorry, hold on, I have a very active kitten in my house. Yeah, so the temperature is the most significant predictor of the load, and we we figured that since we don't know temperature going forward for the entire month, we only know for the next 7 or 8 days, right? We wanted to do a climate based model which doesn't take temperature as an input, and we wanted to do a temperature based model which only takes temperature as an input. So everything else was completely uh, taken, like every other factor like time, uh, or weekend, weekday, everything sort of was taken into account. But even then, temperature ended up being 80-90% of the predicting value. So for this approach, we take root mean square error, out of sample root mean square error to and the objective function is to get the lowest root mean square error for the best performing model that we would have. So if you really think about it, it's not like a lot of temperature based or forecasting models. They treat time as a distinct entity, right? Like they would have a day of the week or weekday, weekend, or something like this, which it's not which it's not really an intuitive thing to do, because you don't wake up in the middle of the night at 12 and say, okay, it's a different day now, time to change my load consumption. That doesn't really happen. So this model, we look at we completely eliminate that part where we don't keep separate days, and we bind a Fourier decomposition series to the time so that it's treated as continuous. So we started with a piece of with a exploratory analysis where we wanted to see how the load was changing. So for this, we modeled every hour of the day, and the x-axis is temperature in this case, and the y-axis is load for the first graph. And if you see, there was a very clear piecewise linear temperature dependence in that around somewhere around 70 Fahrenheit, people decide that, I'm sorry for using Fahrenheit, but that's what the temperature was available in. So yeah, so around 70 Fahrenheit, which should be around what, 23 degrees Celsius or something. There was a clear cutoff where people were increasing load if the temperature was going much lower, and they were increasing load if the temperature was going much higher. So when we actually ended up coding it and getting the error from our final model, resulting model, the error was fairly randomly distributed, telling us that we were on the right track. um, So then we ended up building 3 probabilistic models to basically test this forecasting work that we had done. The first was a temperature-based model. This is perfect knowledge of temperature. Like we assume that for the entire month, we know what the temperature is going to be. So this is our best case scenario, which is not the reality. Then we have a climate-based model, which is not given any knowledge at all of the temperature. So this is the most pessimistic case. And then we have an ensemble model, which up to 7 days it takes the temperature model, because and I'll get into that a little bit later. So it's a fair mixture of the two. So they all predict 1 to 31 days ahead depending on what month it is, and going forward from that. So for the temperature based model, it's a fairly straightforward trend plus hour into day plus day of the week, and we use some smooth temperature terms. And in order to get the optimized out of sample error, we use the Neddermead algorithm. So yeah, I mean, this is a fairly straightforward regression that we ran. The other one was a climate-based model, where instead of having this temperature smoothened term, we switched it out with just having the trend and hour and day of the week. So it's not getting any temperature information at all. So we just have one hyperparameter to use, which is the exponential factor. And the temperature values in this situation were all selected through bootstrapping, which was basically what we had historically. And yeah, so it showed that skilled forecasts were correct up till 7 days. So so when we built our ensemble model, we made sure that up till 7 to 10 days ahead, we had some sort of temperature dependence, which was decreasing till the 10th day, and then this temperature completely goes away, then we only have the climate based forecast. So this is how we end up having the final root. So the y-axis is the root mean square error, and this is the kind of error we end up getting. Is obviously because of climate. For the climate model, we'd have the highest error. For the perfect knowledge temperature, we have the lowest error, and then the ensemble model, the blue one, is somewhere in the middle. So the way we do this for our battery, so tying it back to our battery, which is what the objective was, to reduce demand charges. So we have a tool called battery storage evaluation tool, which is what Dee, Wu, and Shuma from my team actually work on. So it optimizes a battery participation, and it tells you how much money this battery can earn given certain set of conditions. So our forecast was essentially put into that model, and based on that model, the battery was repeatedly bid into the market, and they ended up getting results that were really, really interesting to us, which is that the ensemble model actually worked the best, especially at zero threshold. So the blue one is the performance of the ensemble model. The y-axis is the amount of annual benefit that they made, and the x-axis is the threshold that was being used. So threshold being that what is the probability that we know tomorrow is going to be the peak. So the lower the threshold, the more times the battery would bid into the market, and the higher, the lesser the number of times the battery would bid into the market. So it turned out that the ensemble forecast was working the best because the model wasn't leaning into random temperature or tiny temperature fluctuations anymore. So I think the way to improve this model would be if we had historical forecast values. Temperature typically is given in what actually happened if you look at historical temperature data, but if we have forecast data, which is what was predicted a year ago to be the temperature in a month, that data we don't have. So that is the way we could improve this work, if we could get our hands on something like that. But that was the presentation. I wanted to thank Dr. Imre Juk for providing the funding for this work. And if you have any questions, this is my email ID, and we have all of our work actually posted on this website. So.
Okay, thank you very much. It's very interesting. Let me check Okay, so I think at the end we will have time to discuss. So let's proceed to the last but not the least presenter, Miss Bonaldo from the University of Padua, please. Yes, please. Thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. Yes, we can, I think.
Okay. So, okay, good morning. My name is Cinzia Bonaldo, and I'm a PhD student of Management Engineering and Real Estate Economic School at the University of Padua in Italy. Today, I'm going to present a research work carried out by me, Professor Caporini and Professor Fontini, whose title is The Relationship Between Day-Ahead and Futures Prices in the Electricity Market, an empirical analysis on Italy, France, Germany, and Switzerland. Maybe I have an error. Sorry, I can move on with the slides. Okay. The outline of the presentation is as follows. First, I will start with a brief introduction, then I will go in depth by presenting the data and the model used for this study. And finally, I will conclude by presenting the main results obtained. So let's go to the introduction. We know that we'll say electricity spot prices are characterized by an high volatility and a huge spike. However, electricity sellers and buyers can hedge risks by exchanging future contracts in organized markets. Futures are standardized derivative contracts that fix the price before the delivery time. But one of the consequences of the limited storability of electricity is that the evaluation of electricity future prices cannot be performed by adopting classical approach like non-arbitrage condition, that is the most used approach in financial markets, and nor the cost of carry approach that is commonly used in commodity markets. On the contrary, one of the most valid techniques for electricity futures prices evaluation is the hedging pressure theory. And according to this approach, the forward price of a certain asset can be read as the sum of the expected spot price on that asset and the risk premium. The risk premium is paid by a risk averse operator in order to transfer the price risk to the counterparty. And both electricity producers and buyers may be interested in incurring an additional cost to cover themselves from price risk. This would result in both positive and negative risk premium. In particular, a positive risk premium would signal that buyers are relatively more risk averse than sellers. And on the contrary, a negative premium implies that sellers are willing to pay a premium to buyers in order to transfer them the risk of price volatility. Okay, in this work, we have performed a comprehensive analysis of the risk premia in 4 large European markets that are Italy, Germany, France, and Switzerland. We can quantify and evaluate the risk premium for monthly, quarterly, yearly futures contracts exchanged in this market in the last decade. In particular, we studied whether and how the future price have converged or not to the realized average spot prices that have been observed for the delivery period per each type of product traded. Then we investigate if and by how much the risk premia depend on the length of the trading period and the delivery duration. Moreover, we also investigate if a change in the sign of the premia is observed when comparing the beginning and the end of the trade period. And the possible change of the sign would indicate the need to cover risks shifted across market participants as contracts approach to their maturity. The time series used in this study starts from the beginning of 2010 to the end of 2019. And future prices were obtained by European Energy Exchange trading market. And we analyzed both daily baseload and peak load futures quotations at the daily settlement prices. We have considered only products with delivery periods equal to a month, a quarter, or a year. And the futures data set includes also daily data on the open interests for all contracts. We have analyzed a total of 936 different futures contracts. In the figure on the right-hand side, it is represented an example of typical path of future prices compared to the spot prices. And in panel A are represented the time series of future prices of the baseload yearly product for France, whose name is CAL16. And while in panel B are represented the time series of hourly spot prices in France in the same period. As you can see, electricity future prices shows a lower volatility, no mean-reverting process, and an absence of spikes compared to the spot ones. So we used the ex-post risk premium approach that has the advantage to give certain results. And an important feature is that it is computed only at maturity when the spot price of the underlying asset it is already known. And the post in electricity market is defined as the difference between the future price and the arithmetic mean of spot prices verified within the delivery period. And we computed the risk premium for each of 936 traded contracts following 3 basic steps. First of all, we started from the day-ahead time series, and we computed both base load and peak load daily average. Then the average monthly, quarterly, and yearly prices have been calculated to be used as the ex-spot expected day-ahead prices, each one for the corresponding specific futures contract. And finally, the risk premium for each trading day has been calculated following the relation that I have reported in this slide, where RP is the risk premium at time T, relative to a country J, that could be France, Switzerland, Italy, and Germany, for a contract related to a product type K that could be baseload or peak load with a specific delivery period, small f, while capital F is the daily settlement future price contracted at day T. And finally, S bar is the mean of the daily spot prices verified in the delivery period. About the model, we have performed a multivariate linear regression model with 2 explanatory variables that are trading days before the start of the delivery period and the futures liquidity index. The regression has been estimated through OLS robust standard errors, and we are following the relation in this slide, where RP is the risk premium defined in the previous slide. Beta 0 is the intercept that depends on country J, product type K, and periods G, that could be monthly, quarterly, and yearly periods. So in other words, in our regression, the estimation is done jointly for different value of specific delivery periods, provided that they identify either monthly, quarterly, or yearly contracts. Then beta 1 is the coefficient monitoring the impact of the time to maturity. And beta 2 measures the impact of market liquidity. Finally, epsilon is an error term that is serially correlated and or heteroscedastic. So this equation defines a set of linear relationships which we jointly estimate across values of J, G, and K. So remember, the risk premium are caused by the hedging pressure. Both consumers and retailers, due to the high volatility and unpredictability of the spot price of electricity, might want to hedge themselves from sudden price changes. And consequently, positive value of the risk premium indicate a relatively higher risk aversion of consumers. On the contrary, negative values of risk premium indicate a situation in which producers' risk aversion is greater. And in panel A, I have reported the box plot representation of the risk premium computed on the basis of the previous equation for France, Germany, Italy, and Switzerland. And as we can see, there is not a clear convergence of future prices to the ahead ones on average in all countries considered. Indeed, in the figure, the median values are positive or negative, even if they are near to zero. While observing panel B, it clears emerges that in France and Germany, risk premium were negative. So future prices were higher than average spot prices verified in the delivery period. While in Italy and Switzerland, the opposite is valid. So the highest volatility, the highest risk premium volatility has been recorded in France. And this was probably caused by physical characteristics of French production system, which is based mostly on electricity production from nuclear power plants. In these two plots, I have reported two examples on how risk premium expressed in euro per megawatt hour changed with respect to trading period, where the first observation coincided with the last day of the trading before the delivery period. And the straight line represents the linear regression of the price with respect to T. In particular, in the plot on the left side, shows the ex-post risk premium of a Germany base load product with delivery period correspond to the second quarter of 2019. And it can be seen that for this product, the risk premium on average has had a decreasing trend. So a negative premium risk corresponds to more distant trading days, while as trading days approach to the delivery period, the risk premium rises and becoming positive about 1 year before the delivery. And on the plot on the right side, shows the ex-post premium, risk premium on of an Italy base load product with the delivery period corresponding of all year of 2019. And for this product, the risk premium on average has been negative with a decreasing trend. So lower risk premium corresponds to more distant trading days, while as trading days approach the delivery period, the risk premium rises. In this table are reported the results of the estimation of the regression model presented before, and the dependent variable is the daily risk premium, and robust standard errors are reported in the parentheses. And the intercept measures the average value of the risk premium per each type, country, and product considered. In particular, in France, we observe that the value increases as the delivery period rises, both for baseload and peak load contract. While the opposite occurs in Germany, in which shorter maturity are associated with higher risk premium. For Italy and Switzerland, the highest value of the risk premium are associated to quarterly products. And there are negative premium for yearly Germany products, yearly peak load products, and Switzerland base load products. And the value of the coefficient associated with the time before the delivery, so beta 1, show how risk premium change on average as the delivery moves away. And for almost all base load products, we observed a negative coefficient, and the only exception being the Germany quarterly and yearly contracts. And this means that as the duration reduced, the value of the premia tends to increase. In other words, as trading time approaches the delivery period, risk premia rise. A similar tendency occurs for peak load contracts, with the notable exception of monthly contracts, for which risk premia reduces as maturity approaches in France and in Italy. And finally, even if coefficients of liquidity are on average significant, they are very small, and no clear indication arises with respect to their sign. In these two tables are reported the average signs of the premia for the first 5 trading days and the last 5 trading days before the delivery period. It should be noted that for the majority of products, the magnitude of premia tends to rise as the delivery approaches. In addition, the risk premia are higher for products with longer delivery periods. Note that in Germany and France, the risk premium is positive both at the beginning and at the end of the trading period. On the contrary, for Italy and Switzerland, there is on average also a sign inversion. So at the beginning, while at the beginning of the trading period, the sign is negative, it becomes positive as the delivery period approaches. So in this paper, we examine the relationship between the day-ahead and future prices in electricity market of Germany, France, Italy, and Switzerland, and by using the hedging pressure theory. And our results confirm that there is no convergence on average of future prices to the realized spot prices. Moreover, we show that there is on average a negative relation between risk premia and the days before the delivery period. So the closer the trading day is to the expiration date, the bigger the risk premium. And for all countries, the products consider the risk premium verified at the end of the trading period is positive. However, in Italy and Switzerland, there is an inversion of the sign of the risk premium. So at the beginning of the trading period, on average, risk premium are negative and they rise as expiration time approaches. And in France and Germany, the sign of risk premium is on average positive, both at the beginning and the end of the trading period. A possible reason might be related to the progressive introduction of renewables in the grid that increased during the period considered in the analysis, which has generated a rise in the day-ahead variance. So in any case, the detailed identification of the factor behind the risk premium trend goes over time, go beyond the scope of this paper and requires further analysis to precisely identify the real causes. And these results could be of interest for market participants and traders for both speculative and hedging perspective. Thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, I'm glad to answer you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It's very interesting. Now, when I check Q&A, for the time being, there is no questions, so maybe I can start. We have still 10 to 15 minutes. So maybe I can learn what each presenter thinks about the statement that I will make here now at this moment. Now, as all of us are economists, when I read your CVs, I have seen that all of you actually are the graduates of economics. And you know that liberalization in energy markets was proposed on the basis that the prices will decrease for the consumers, and on the producer side, this will indicate the best cost-efficient method to generate, let's say, electricity. And let's be specific on electricity. So what would you think about this statement? I mean, marketization, liberalization, privatization, did it bring a reduction in prices to consumers? And from the producer's side, did it bring a cost-efficient production method? Because all of you are studying about prices. So I would like to learn your ideas about this issue, about this statement, in terms of the countries that you study. Thank you very much. Maybe we can follow the, we can start with Kundrea and then follow the order of the presentations. Thank you.
Yes, actually, I'm working more with production and consumption time series for now. So prices, I have only knowledge of general knowledge of it. So I would say in France, like we observed over the past year that the price of electricity didn't really reduce when the liberalization has come at the beginning of the 2000s. And actually, on the consumer side, I am a consumer too, and I've seen no real decrease of prices of electricity. The one thing that the liberalization has made possible is that the consumer is still now able to choose from a various set of offers, which is sometimes they are more adapted to our needs, and this is something I think overall help the consumer to reduce its cost. And on the producer side, I'd say the price is still in France is still there are a lot of subventions, especially for renewables, and small actors like smaller producers, they are really encouraged, maybe, or it's also because of the financing model of renewable. It's more accessible to smaller producers. So the thing is that the price of renewables is still a lot subsidized in France. So they're even in another debate is the price of the nuclear, because in France we have a lot of the electricity production from nuclear, and actually there's some regulation also to give the ability to concurrent producers to buy electricity from nuclear at a stable price, which is something like 42 euros per megawatt hour. And this also is like blocking the market mechanisms in some way, because and actually it's a lot of debate in France, because obviously EDF, the historical nuclear producer, they want to to sell their electricity and to reimburse their huge investment in nuclear. So it's a lot of debate in France, and actually I'm not sure if I can
you're right.
be sure on that. On the fact that the price has been reduced, the cost, sorry.
Yeah, I know that it's controversial and there is no one answer actually, but I would like to learn what each presenter thinks, since we have time. Okay, thank you very much. Now, can we actually, Professor Dumsi Vienna, would you like to make any comments, or do you have anything to say?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. Maybe I would add more from the structural changes in our case, in our country case, as we had during last decades, very significant structural changes in the electricity market. And of course, these changes had impact to the prices, different impact comparing different periods. First of all, by closing Ignalina atomic power station, of course, it had some negative effect for electricity price. Later on, developing wind energy sector, which had some positive impact of energy prices. Integration of Lithuanian electricity networks to the North-Balt network. It means connections with Sweden and integration in Litpolylink with Poland. Again, it had some impact in terms of prices, of course, positive, reducing prices. So we have at the moment integration in the European energy system. So such a situation, of course, is different country to country, but in Lithuania we have in such case quite significant changes in the structure of the electricity networks. And of course, some things which was introduced taking the European Union third energy package as well. Separating transmission, production, and distribution, of course, what was done in Lithuania already in 2012.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you, Professor. And Vanshika, would you like to say something? Make any comments?
Yeah, sure. From a privatization point of view, I think in US, the idea is that the role the government's supposed to play is that the government is supposed to regulate and set the rules for the market, and then the private players can come in and work under those rules. And it's actually worked very, very well in America in that we have not only very good availability and access to power and affordability as well, but there's a very robust market system. Like I was talking about a few, so for example, energy storage that I work in, energy storage can participate in up to 15 different services and get benefits out of that. So there are like different criterias for how an asset can participate in the market, and there's like this robust menu of options to different resources. So I don't think that would have been possible if there wasn't private input, because they also want, so private companies focused on making the best revenue or maximizing benefits. They're obviously giving really, really good efficiency from an efficiency point of view, really good like pointers to the government or the regulators to make rules. And we recently had the FERC Order 841, which is actually literally the result of the private participants telling the government that this isn't working, we need a better system. So they came up with like new orders, and so there's this very good back and forth. I really like that. So I think in general for electricity sector, if you have a well-developed electricity sector where your accessibility is very good, then it's fine to go to a private level. But if you're at a level where your own electricity system isn't good at the moment, and then you're privatizing it, then there is more chances to exploit, because the regulators themselves don't know what is going on. So I think it's very important to have like really educated regulators for that purpose. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Jinzia, would you like to say something?
Yes, I think that the liberalization of the electricity market has certainly created more competition, but this has caused several impacts on price level. And one of the relevant factor is that it increases the volatility at the wholesale level, and we assist to many spike, and price has become more unpredictable in the day-ahead market. And this has caused that both producers and retailers try to protect themselves against this volatility through the futures market. Indeed, the last few years we have seen a massive increase in the trading of future contracts, particularly in the European Energy Exchange. And thus, alongside the day-ahead market, the futures market has become increasingly popular. So,
okay. Okay, well, if anyone has a question, let me check the last check. No. If you want to say anything more, you can, please do. But if, since we have, actually, I should thank you for being so on time. And if nobody has anything to add, then I can actually close. Before I close, I wish you all the very best for the new year. Health and happiness for the new year. I hope we will have a better year than this and meet in either Rome or Milan again in less tougher days, let's say. So if you want to add something, please do. If you don't have anything to say, then we can say bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Thank you. And also the representative of the association, are you here there? I don't know the name of the
Yes. Yes.
okay, I want to thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And see you soon. Have a great lunch and see you. Thank you so much.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.